Hi guys, how are you?
Hi,
Hi,
Rachel. I'm well.
Rachel. Really good, thanks.
To start, Ludi, how does it feel to kind of be part of this new um, return, I guess it is, to these martial arts centered films that are like using the English language for them? Because I feel like we had these in the 90s and then we just like stopped making them for years, and now you guys are all kind of bringing that back.
Yeah, I know. I mean, where do they go? I remember watching them in the 90s. I grew up with them. I didn't know. It was a magical time when I didn't care whether a good movie was a good movie. I just found it entertaining. So I watched them. I watched them endlessly. Like a lot of things like Bloodsport. The way the movie was, Art of Eight Limbs was pitched to me was kind of like along the same lines of Enter the Dragon, where a guy goes into a situation and has to disarm this baddie and do this whole thing. I really miss those movies where you don't have to think too much and it's just pure action, escapism, and then you get some people together that can do martial arts. So yeah, it was really nostalgic. So I'm glad they're coming back.
Yeah. And because how is it like? I always think it's so much fun when you look at these movies and it's like they're not only movies about martial arts, but it's also movies about these like it's always some crazy character in them and I love them very much. But how is it for you as an actor kind of approaching these kinds of movies now in 2024?
Well, for me, this was a whole new thing, and this is just why I wanted to do it. I mean, uh, I've done a lot of movies, but I've never done a martial arts film, and I've always kind of admired them from afar. I mean, going back to Jean-Claude Van Damme, and and the early ones in the U.S., and I never in a million years thought that would be the kind of film I would be asked to be in. And so when Shannon McIntosh, our producer, called me and asked me, I thought, yeah, that's great. That's one more box I can check off of things to do. And I ended up absolutely loving it. I mean, obviously, I'm the guy who is not the martial arts guy. I'm the storyline outside of the fighting. But because it's so closely connected to Ludi, I'm connected to that world in that sense. But so I found it completely fascinating, and I loved watching not just Ludi but all the fighters when the fights themselves were choreographed because they're so precise and they're so detailed, and it requires such skill, and it's a skill that is way outside of my box. So for me to watch people who do whatever they do incredibly well is always fascinating. So yeah, I jumped into this whole genre of filmmaking, feet first, and I loved it. Yeah.
And Ludi, you mentioned a couple of movies that they said when they originally pitched this to you, but were there any that you personally were like, well, I'm going to rewatch these films because this is kind of what I remembered and how I want to kind of bring this energy to life?
Yeah, I watched 36 Chambers of Shaolin. I don't know why, but it just not for inspiration, but I guess just to it's just one of those movies where I always wanted to rewatch and I hadn't seen it in decades, so I rewatched that one. I I had in mind for some reason, it's one of these inexplicable things that I look back and I'm like, why did I watch that religiously when I was a kid? And it was Walker the Texas Ranger. And I just that theme song kept on playing in my head. It might have nothing to do with Out of Eight Limbs. This is just going off honestly what I watched. But like like while you're in Texas, look behind you. There's a ranger. It just sticks with you. That stuff
Yeah.
really sticks with you. And I was hoping that in the movie, if there's something, one scene, two scenes that would stick with a person, as much of as like a meme as those movies were, it'd be iconic. Like Nicholas mentioned, Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport, when the guy like inexplicably throws some sand in his eyes and he's going, "Eh." Those things. I just want one or two of those images, and if that clicked, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, it's really fun to talk about all these because I was saying earlier how I used to watch a lot of Jet Li movies with my dad, and I'm like,
Oh,
we stopped
100%, yeah.
we stopped kind of doing all those. But Nicholas, I'm gonna ask the reverse of Ludi after, but I'm asking you first. As someone who didn't do the martial art fight sequences, do you have a favorite that you got to kind of watch them get put together and like were you like glad I don't have to do it, but it looks really cool?
But I got to say, I love the fight scenes during the end credits. I think they're amazing. But I also, I mean, I'm not saying it because he's sitting here, but I thought the fight that Ludi did in the film, you know, where the bad guy general is convinced he's going to lose, and then instead, you know, he not only beats one guy, he beats like three guys. To me, that's like pure martial arts. Where, I mean, you think of Kill Bill, and it's that those moments where suddenly you've kind of entered another reality. You've entered a reality that you think probably never actually would happen on Earth, where people do these jumps and these spins and these kicks that are probably more than a human being could do. And yet you love watching it. You know, you love watching them fly in a circle with their leg out and kind of knock down six people. And I'm not saying that what Ludi did was not real, because everything he did was completely real in the fights he did. But I love that kind of heightened reality aspect of it. Oh, and I do have to correct one thing I said. I've never been in a martial arts movie. However, Brad Pitt, Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that's the closest I've ever been to being in a martial arts movie.
And you were Spider-Man. And you were Spider-Man.
Yeah,
What are you saying?
yeah,
And you were Spider-Man.
and,
It's his own kind of
yeah, and
martial arts. As Bruce Lee says, it's like whatever you use, however you use your body to
I
to
agree.
attack or take down someone.
I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
There's my little Spidey. I agree.
Well done, well done. I'm impressed.
Imagine if if your character in Eight Limbs was Peter Parker, retired, assuming a different identity, and joining the
Oh,
CIA.
wouldn't that be cool? That would have been so cool. That would have been so cool. And, you know, and like just at one moment, he needs to do something with a web spinner or something. You know, like you just see him go for 1 second, have to go, you know, and get some guy. That's a great
Yeah,
Do the
idea.
thwip real
yeah.
quick.
The watch
It's like,
is the web
yeah.
spinner. You're trying to just click it
Just
through.
thwip it real quick. I would cry like
Yeah.
thwip thwip the whole movie.
Whip.
Just thwip thwip. But Ludi, on the flip of that, is there a fight that you were very proud that you got to kind of bring to life in the movie?
Yeah, I think to echo Nicholas, what he was saying, the end fight was really fun. And with fight scenes, I find that do you know that great, I think it's the Mike Tyson quote, but I might be attributing this wrong, but like everybody has a plan until someone punches you in the face or in the mouth.
That
So I
it is
think
Mike Tyson.
it's Mike Tyson, right? It's so smart because I think although we're fighting on screen, a lot of times it's like that as well. When you see us doing choreography and rehearsals, you have everything perfect, but nothing is heightened until you get on set. And then kind of like when someone calls action, that's the equivalent of someone punching you in the mouth because a lot of times you lose everything. You lose what you practice because now you're going at 100%. And a lot of times when the camera's rolling, you go even higher than 100%. So a lot of those plans go out the window and really often doesn't turn out as perfect as you practiced. And when I watch my stuff, especially when there's not that much time to film it, I often catch those imperfections that didn't turn out as planned. But I think the last fight, we really just threw out the plan and we just kind of fought in that ring. And I remember also at the very end, I don't think it's shown, but the crowd was going really wild. Like the people that we hired to cheer, I felt like they were really cheering because they didn't stop when the director called cut and he just kept on rolling the camera. And walking out of that ring was really cool. It was really fun.
Oh my God, I love it. I can't wait for
I,
everyone to get
I
to
love
see
the
it.
fact. I was just going to say, Ludi, I love the moment that after you win the fight and you circle the ring and then you walk straight up to the camera lens with a big smile on your face. And it's kind of like, yeah, this is a movie. You know,
Oh, that
it's
was
like
real.
there's a camera there filming all this, you know,
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like a really cool little moment.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't know whether Bob told you to do that or whether you just did it, but it was a great little moment.
yeah,
Like, there you
yeah,
go, folks. That's our movie, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and also I really enjoyed the fights that were done by the other characters in the movie because a lot of them were part of the stunt team. So they have so much more experience just doing this stuff than me. They come up with the fights and they can reenact it and they go for hours. those guys are tough as nails. And also, the things that Grace did when she, what was the character's? What? I have a brain fart right now. But Grace's character, who is
Mm.
the female counterpart, the local contact to me, when she kicks the dude out of the tuk tuk, and when she flies in and kind of tries to save you in the scene where you're dying, that was really impressive to me. I really love watching those fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I loved her coming through that door and flattening that guard with, all like in the one action. Yeah, she's a very good fighter herself.
Yeah, I can't wait for everyone to get to see these fight sequences before I leave. Nicholas, like I showed you my tattoo, but Peter Parker means the absolute world to me. So it was so
Good.
great talking to you both today. And I can't wait for everyone to
Thanks,
experience it.
Rachel. Well,
Thank you
hopefully
so
you'll
much.
see me on another Spider-Verse film. Thank
I
you.
would love it. Well, thank you guys.
Oh my
Bye.
goodness.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rachel.